Good afternoon, amazing people of the insurance industry. I am Joe Hollier. The insurance environment is so noisy right now. There's no shortage of ways, processes, or technology available to create a highly effective, high-performance insurance agency. The urge or the tendency may be to run into the fire, gobble up all the shiny new objects. My recommendation is to slow down. Our industry transition sounds more loud than practical right now. It may feel impossible to sift through all the things you should be doing or technology you should be stacking, but we're here to say, let's take this process slow and thoughtfully. Let's curate each of our own mixtapes to create the soundtrack of our agency's future. No one mixtape is the same, just like no one set of solutions will turn every agency into a high-performance insurance agency. We are here to help remove the static and make the best decisions for your growth and evolution. If agencies are the mixtapes, then the insurance scramble is your noise reduction button. Thank you for being here. Let's get on with the show.
One, two, three, four.
There he is. I thought you fell asleep on me, buddy. You're on mute. That's so 2020. Turn your mute button
I know,
off.
man. You know me. I'm old school. I never do things.
You
I never do the
things.
trendy thing. Never do the trendy thing.
Welcome, everybody, to the Insurance Scramble Live. It is me, Joe Hollier, Mr. Agent Awesome, Alex DePazzo. We're so happy to be here today, Alex. Great to see you. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing amazing. Except for the road rally going on outside. I don't know if you know this. I'm a huge NASCAR fan, so I moved the office and production studio right into the middle of a track. So occasionally, I can't stop it. You're going to hear it.
Well, I heard in South Florida that you get a better deal on office space if you go right next to the drag strip. So you nailed it. Sounds great. Love the live action.
Miami Vice.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We are very excited to be here today on yet another episode broadcast of the Insurance Scramble Live. We're all about high performance right now. You know, we're shifting gears, so to speak, from 2020 and everybody trying to figure out the next moves they're going to make as an agency. But now we're going to start bringing that into focus a little bit. And this is a high performance year, yes?
Absolutely. In fact, 2021 is going to be hopefully everything 2020 wasn't. You know, we had an opportunity, a small lull to correct a few things, to steer the ship in a slightly different direction. And so we're going to make 2021 where we're implementing all those things we were planning for in 2020.
Let's get down to it. We got a jam-packed show, and I don't want to waste any more time because we got some fantastic people that are going to be sharing some valuable insight as we go here. Here's a man, ladies and gentlemen, here's a man who has a history of finding better solutions, whether it's marketing, branding, customer experience. He now has his own CRM that he's created and crafted. It is my pleasure from sunny California. That is a sunset in the background. Mr. Nick Ayers. Nick, welcome to the show. First timer. Have a great to have you, buddy.
First time. I wish I could say first time, long time.
First time listener. You're supposed to give us your height and weight, I think.
Yeah. I wish I was in sunny California. I mean, part of me wishes I was, and part of me is glad I'm not. I'm actually in Arizona.
So that's close enough, buddy. It's close enough.
Still sunny.
The same thing.
You know, Nick, I remember the first time I met you, you forwarded me some of your marketing video email material, and it was a video on how you like your In-N-Out burger. Are you still working with that video these days?
No, that's from a previous life.
I loved it because it was authentic, and I knew at that moment that you're the guy to turn to for marketing. I've been following you ever since, so it's great to have you here. Let's get to it. I tell you what, in 2020, we have been pounded into our heads the importance of data collection, data ownership for an agency to grow. That's all great and well known now. But there's a big Bernie in the room, right? There's a Bernie sitting in the corner who's collecting all of this data. And every day Bernie's like, give me a little bit more about this person, a little bit more about this client. And all these Bernies are starting to stack up, right? So now that we have all the Bernies, you know, in our ownership, what are we supposed to do with this? How the heck do we even begin to use it?
It's a great question. I think part of it, and you're right. I mean, for the longest time, it was we need more data, we need more analytics. And really, when we say data, I feel like that's kind of a really kind of cliche word in today's industry. Whether you call it data or whether you just call it information or intel on what your prospects are doing, what your customers are doing, what your staff is doing. For years, we've wanted all this data. Now we're getting it. And I think what we have to now realize is, okay, we have this. And what it's exposing a lot of a lack of our own internal process. We've said we want this, and it's like, great, now you have it. Now what do you do? I think one of the most important things that agency owners can do is they need to really have an outline for an if this, then that type scenario. It's the best way I can explain it in a simple terms. And I think the things that most agency owners can really kind of implement quickly is, okay, if I get this, if I know that our agency deals better with parents with teen drivers, as an example, right? What are we then doing to reach more of those people from a marketing standpoint? What are we doing to enhance the referability with the current customers that we have? It's an if this, then that type scenario. So I think what agency owners should do is really start to outline all of those types of scenarios, or the ones that they can think of. Start with what you know first, and start to outline those things. Maybe you do better with homes that are pre-1950s galvanized pipes, whatever the case might be, depending on where you're located. But you have these tools now at your disposal. Now you really have to outline what you're going to do with that. And really, that comes down to, how am I going to get more people just like the ones I have? How do I repel the ones that I don't want? And how do I enhance the relationships with my current customers? Or how do I then take the information that I have and use it internally with my staff? How do I determine, and compare this maybe this service person with that service person, this salesperson with that salesperson, based on the same information, the same opportunities? And it really, what it does is it puts accountability on the agency owner, because now the agency owner has the information. There's no more excuse. Now we have to actually go out and do something with it. And I think that that's really the next step. The evolution of this is creating the processes, which has always come down to that. What is your process? How do you handle it? How do you manage it? And that's really where agency owners, I think, need to spend a little bit more intentional time in crafting that process.
Yeah, and I think it just reinforces the idea, or maybe we're seeing it in a different way, that, as an agency, focus what you're really good at. Focus what you know. Now you got more information to help you get better at fulfilling that process based on what you know. You've created, and congratulations. I don't know a ton about the Better CRM, the customer relationship manager system you got, but from what I read and what I'm hearing about it, it sounds fantastic. In this process, I'm sure you really got a good sense or seen a lot of things performance-wise that maybe agencies are doing, or things that are really be hurting themselves to some degree. Can you share maybe some of the things you've seen along the way that could be issues that maybe people can kind of tweak and as they move forward into trying to be a high-performance agency?
Sure. I think a lot of it really starts with the mindset of the agency owner. A lot of agency owners, it's not uncommon for them to have backgrounds as sales agents first, producers. And I think when they go from producer or sales agent to now head coach, right, from player to coach, there's sometimes that tendency to want to kind of stay in the same lanes that they were in when they were a sales producer. And I think that one of the biggest problems, the reason why, and the problems that we're trying to solve with Better Agency is how do we take the agency owner, whether they have one employee themselves, they have 10 or 50 employees, and they're having to spin all these different plates. Just because you have more employees doesn't mean you're not spinning more plates. You're just spinning different plates. But how do we take those agency owners that are spinning all these plates, or feeling like they're overwhelmed? Because one of the biggest things we hear most or a lot is, I don't have time. I don't have time to dedicate to this or to that. And that's because agency owners are really, frankly, probably doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Their time is more valuable than the things that they're doing. And one of the biggest challenges that we've seen, and the reason we're trying to solve these problems, is agency owners are inefficient in their processes, inefficient in their sales, because they're spending their time, which is valuable, on things that they really should delegate. So whether it is getting someone to analyze the data, which I'm a firm believer that agencies should probably think about that in the future, instead of the principal having to be the salesperson, the marketer, the recruiter, the trainer, the head of sales, head of service, all these things that agency owners tend to want to put on their shoulders. How do we then create systems and processes to delegate that stuff off with people or with systems? And I think that is one of the biggest pain points that we're trying to solve, because what Better Agency does is people will say, well, how does Better Agency compare with this or that? And I say, that's really the wrong question. The right question is how do we avoid spending $50,000, $60,000 on people when we don't have to, when we want to scale? And so we're trying to figure out ways to alleviate those problems that the agency owners have put on themselves because they really haven't learned to delegate, or they refuse to delegate. And what we find is that when they actually have systems and processes in place, infrastructure to take care of some of the load, the heavy lifting, that they can be a little bit more laser focused on the things that they should be laser focused. I don't think that if you're an agency owner, you shouldn't sell. If that's what you want to do, that's what you should do. Mm-hmm. But be laser focused on it. If you are saying, you know what, I don't want to be in sales, I want to just focus on training and recruiting and building company culture, then be laser focused on that. And use technology or things, help or people that will allow you to focus on those things while it's doing the other stuff that you really shouldn't be doing. I think that's one of the big struggles. And I don't think that's just in the insurance industry. I bet we can probably go through any industry and find people in that same situation. But that's the problems that we're running into and what we're trying to solve for people in the industry.
Yeah, I'm really glad you touched on that, because in fact, Alex and I were just talking about that this morning, about what kind of people are we going to have to look to hire moving into this much more scientific or analyst type of roles.
Yeah, I've been speaking or thinking a lot about that and talking to other people about that. I think that there are really there's a few roles that I can see the agency of the future really having to invest in, and I think no particular order. I think one of those is marketing, and that might be because I have a bias in that direction. But I think the agency owners should probably think about hiring real CMOs and real dedicated people who understand this to run it for them, so they don't have to do it again, so they can be laser focused on what they want to do. And I think hiring people who are, for a lack of a better term, data analysts, who can then create, because I think about me, I don't want all the context. I just give me the headlines. Don't give me the fine print. Have somebody else look at the headlines, tell me, okay, these are all the analytics from a sales, carrier, underwriting, all that stuff. And here you go, Mr. Agency or Mrs. Agency Principal. Here's the information, and here's what I think we should do with it. And then it's more of a collaborative effort, so that, again, agency owners can just be focused on the things that they should be focused on.
That's a great conversation, and I'm going to shelf that for a future episode, but I definitely would love to talk more about different kind of hiring we're looking at moving forward. I want to give you 20 seconds, though, to pitch your conference. Better Conference sounds fun. What you got going on with that, and what can people expect from you moving forward?
Yeah, the Better Conference is our user conference for Better Agency users. We're really excited. We're only capped this year at 150 due to venue limitations. It'll be in April. It's for people who are using Better Agency. We've grown pretty fast with the CRM. We've got a lot of really fun, cool things that we're really, really excited about. I wish I could talk about them here and now. Maybe we'll have to schedule another thing in a couple months where we can break some news and break some cool stuff. But it's going to be an exciting time, an exciting year, and we're excited to solve problems for our industry.
Thank you so much, Nick. And you're always welcome on our platform to share that with folks, and love your insight. And it's very valuable, man. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Nick.
Take care, guys. Good stuff. And man, I tell you, I could talk to him all day about improving your agency and just the things we should be thinking about, especially with in-house staff. But yeah.
But I had to give him one thing that I thought was unfair. I mean, being a small business owner for the last 23 years, I relish making excuses for not doing things. If you're going to start taking away my excuses, I mean, why am I in business?
True story, my man.
Yeah. Been there, done that. I was like, isn't that a prerequisite for being a small business owner? I mean, making excuses for all the things you didn't do.
Mm-hmm. I agree completely.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, we've had that, great conversation about data with Nick and figuring out, what really should we be doing with data. But Nick's not the only person talking about data. So we went to the Twitters and found a few different things, but one in particular I'd like to share from Pat West, because I thought, it was just so timely as to what we were talking about. Amateurs talk strategy, professionals talk logistics. This applies to insurance data now more than ever. Love Pat, always brings things to the smallest possible number of words.
Granular, the granular guy.
100%. And with that, I mean, but that definitely makes a lot of sense. We're no longer talking about processes only, but rather full-blown, not strategies, but full-blown, what's the word I'm looking for? Paths, right? We're looking, the word logistics brings to mind things like freight forwarding, getting something from one place to another. And as we're talking about the future of sales, not just in the independent agency system, but of sales in general, looking at it from the beginning to end, from path point to path point, is really how we're going to be able to use that data to move forward.
Well, that's the idea. I mean, I think what you're saying is it's about action. Strategy is about planning, but logistics are about putting those plans into movement, right? And that's where we are. And I think that's where we are as a show. That's where we are as an industry, and that's where we are as agencies. Is where do we've done a lot of talking about how we need to pivot and adjust and what our business strategies are. But now, what are we doing? Now, what are the steps we're taking to get to that next level, right? And I couldn't have found or picked a better person to touch base with this week. I was fortunate to get him on the phone in terms of just knowing not just where we are, where we're going, but kind of where we are. What's the status quo of the insurance agent, of the independent agent? And that's Mr. Jeff Roy. And I just want to share with you folks some of the thoughts he had on the status quo.
It's the status quo for agents right now. The bar has been risen. Technology has accelerated 5 years in, probably 5 minutes during COVID. It became a necessity, and it basically forced those agents that hadn't adapted, which if you use the term indie agents, like the Seth Zarumbas, the Chris Paradizos, they'd already been along on this journey. The ones that were ready to adapt, that already had gone down the journey, were able to make the jump a lot easier during COVID and adapt than the ones who didn't. So the ones who didn't make the adjustment had to be fast followers and get it, or get ready to sell. So you're seeing some of the people that weren't ready to change, getting ready to bail, sell. So we're seeing a lot of agencies and brokerages across Canada for sale right now. You see a lot of venture capital money coming in because, hey, a lot of brokerages are bringing a 20, 25, 30, 35% EBITDA. Where can you put your money and get that, Joe? Maybe sing karaoke Elvis tunes, but where else can you get that, right? But anyway, so that's where you're kind of seeing that basically everybody said to adapt, go online, work virtually, and now it's all, I would say 2021 is the year of connectivity. APIs and data are king. So the indie agents are shifting to actually get better control of their data and use that data to make intelligent decisions. And historically, our data got dumped into our BMS or AMS systems, sat there, nobody could find it. It's kind of like that story of acres of diamonds with the individual that, went all over the world looking for diamonds, went bankrupt, sold his place. The guy who bought the place ended up finding diamonds on his property. The guy just didn't dig deep enough. So as indie agents, we need to dig deeper into our data and use it and, help build better experiences. What at Excalibur, one of the things I'm really big on right now is connecting with my companies, providing a paperless experience for those consumers who want it. At that point, so we're trying to get rid of the paper and get people onto our mobile app and portals. We're trying to push that through, and in Canada, that initiative is being pushed by our carriers. So we're seeing a huge shift away from that. COVID that's accelerated, but that's a trend that's happening right now. And digital. Everybody, 80% of people start shopping online, so you need a really good digital footprint. It was really important before, but now it's super important because tell me, Joe, how noisy is it out there right now? It's a mess. Like there's so much noise coming in during COVID. Are you sick of seeing webinars, Zooms, Facebook feeds? And at the end of the day, there's not really a lot of new news happening because nobody's really doing anything. So you're getting hit with a ton of messages, but not really anything exciting except for maybe sports and maybe a bit of U.S. political fun is happening, right? So that's kind of what you're seeing. There's not really a lot of new news. So it's really hard to get people's attention. When I spoke across the U.S. and Canada, I talk about the average attention span's 8 seconds, that of a goldfish. I bet you it's down to 6 seconds right now. So we're very distracted, and people right now are beat up. Like they've been not seeing their friends, they haven't done anything fun. The consumers are beat up, and that anger and angst is being transferred to our frontline staff, who are having having a lot of fun trying to deal with all the company changes through this and the consumer changes. So very stressful time for the entire industry. So I think the indie agents are trying their best to give their staff the support, keeping the culture, keeping everything real.
Canada.
I think Jeff Roy is the reason we have the turtle speed on playback, because that guy says so much, and I have to go back slower in slower playback mode just to catch all the nuggets he threw out there, because it's unbelievable the amount of things he thinks of and says. And I don't know what everybody else might come away with in that response, but I know a goldfish's attention span is 8 seconds, and I know it's really noisy out there, and I know Jeff knows a ton of stuff about digital connectivity.
And you didn't write down the great idea to start doing karaoke Elvis on the side.
I did. I'm telling you, like this. I'm gonna wake up at 3 a.m. and I'm gonna be remembering things he said just now. But the great part is that's not all he had to say. In fact, this guy lives and breathes daily the customer experience, the user experience. He's always thinking about the customer. He's not just somebody who's talking about doing that. He actually does it all the time, Alex, and you know that. But part of that is he's got a new project. It's called the Digital Insurance Pint Podcast. And I think it's really cool. He's really continues to push the envelope. It's on brand. It's very refreshing. Let's hear what he has on tap.
I was fortunate enough to meet up with 3 individuals, Tom Reed, Adam Mitchell, and Steve Earle, and all 3 of them had interacted with me probably over the last 3 years on digital. Tom Reed ran the digital lab and was in charge of digital for Aviva Canada, the second biggest insurer in Canada, and basically had brought a bunch of the top digital brokers together. We became friends and we communicated, and Tom's got a good handle on what's going on from a company vendor perspective, whereas Adam, myself, and Steve are in the real world applying these principles, trying to improve the customer experience in the UX. That's what we live and breathe every day. So what we decided is, hey, when you go to a convention, where does all the cool ideas come from? Not always at the convention, but it's at beer or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, depending if you're in New Orleans, at Elevate or some kind of cool event. Basically that's when all the cool ideas happen. So we thought, hey, we're gonna basically have a pint podcast where we talk about digital insurance and connectivity. We'll bring some of the coolest hip people in Canada, and we also will be branching out to the US onto our show to talk about issues that every broker, agents, companies, vendors all face. And we wanted to have a brute, honest conversation, not the sugar-coated, scripted stuff. We wanted to get down to the real issues and have it like Joe and you and I are in a Caesar or a Bloody Mary, having a chat over a beer, right? That's what we wanted to have, that kind of vibe. And we're excited. We got our season 1 in the books, and we just did that kind of on a bootstrap during COVID. It was almost like we ended up shooting a podcast, but it almost became like a therapy session where we chatted out, we had talked about it. And then season 2, we just finished, I think we have 1 more episode to shoot, and we got 10 or 11 episodes where we've interviewed some of the most famous tech vendors and brokers that are connected in the Canadian industry. We Taylor Rhodes from Applied Systems, we just sat down with him for 90 minutes and had a couple beers with him. Super cool dude. We met Paul McDonald, VP of Operations Economical. Theo Kirchen from Acturis. He bought the second biggest tech vendor in Canada. So we on and on. We have a lot of really, really cool people coming on there, and we're just sharing what we do, and we're asking the tough questions and trying to educate brokers and agents. We want to make sure, we're trying to share what we think about what keeps us up at night and solutions. We're trying to share that with the industry and get the real conversations out there. So really pumped to be doing it with those 3 excellent guys. We got 2 cool sponsors, Gore Mutual Insurance Company and Crew.io. They're a VoIP phone system that Excalibur uses and Steve Earle uses. And any profits we make, we're doing this obviously as volunteer basis because, Joe, as you know, there's not billions of dollars in insurance podcasting. Well, maybe you'll find it, but we're doing it to help the industry, and we're trying to just basically educate everybody. And any money we make from our sponsors, we go back to Women in Insurance for Cancer. So we're looking at a more nobler cause to, not only educate people and share knowledge and make the industry better, but help a good cause in the process.
My boy, Digital Insurance Pint Podcast. Follow it. It's like I said, he's got his second season. They're about to release, I think, in February into March, maybe. But incredibly refreshing. And like I said, he's got his finger on the pulse of all things customer experience and digital connectivity.
Hey, and Joe, and if you end up finding the $1 billion from insurance podcasting, I know I've only been here a short time, but share the love.
You'll get yours. You're just patient. It's a long game, Alex. Just hang on.
No, that's what I'm saying. But talking about digital connectivity and going back to something that Nick said, where we're having to look at employment in our businesses a little bit different than we used to. The roles that we have might be shifting in the future. He talked about a CMO, a chief marketing officer. But I found this tweet from Central Insurance. I think it hits right on that point. Do you have a passion for using data to tell the story? And are you energized by providing key stakeholders with intel they need to succeed? If so, Central has an amazing opportunity to join the team as a marketing data analyst. I found it fascinating that they weren't talking about getting a data analyst to work with the actuaries to figure out product dollars or product numbers or anything of that nature. We're now talking about moving data scientists through different parts of the vertical to make sure that the data is being looked at and what's that going to mean for the future.
Awesome. I know. And I'm smiling and laughing because our next guest, she posted a comment about, if nothing else, listen to the Jeff Roy's podcast for the accents, and she nailed it on the head because it is all about the Canadian accents. I was talking to Jeff. I had the Canada flag waving in the background, and I said, Jeff, I may or may not be moving to Canada this year, and as a joke. And he said, well, you definitely need to start working on the accent. And I said, yeah, you're right, but it's it just makes it special.
I love Jeff, but I'm not moving to Canada.
Fair enough. Well, without further ado, I don't want to keep her holding on any longer. It's no accident that I keep seeing Katlyn Eggar's name pop up everywhere. There's important conversations. That just tells me she's got her finger on the pulse. There she is. Katlyn, welcome.
Hey,
also a first timer.
Thanks for having me on the show. I love this show. It's pretty fast paced and upbeat. I love the theme. How do you take your eggs, Joe?
You know what? I was about to say, you put the egg in the scramble here. Did I put your name? Is it Eggar?
Eggar on a fancy day.
Okay.
Eggar on a Friday.
Eggar on a Friday. I like them poached. I like them over easy, but probably my standard is scrambled. It's
classic.
Kind of obvious, right? Yeah. How do you take your eggs, Katlyn?
Oh gosh, I'm not a picky eater. I'm a foodie. Just a big breakfast, and I'm happy.
Well, I'm a little embarrassed to say I haven't known about you for a very long time. Otherwise, I would have probably lit up your inbox to get you on the show. But it seems like you're having some really important conversations right now. It seems like you spend a lot of your time on just boosting the performance in insurance agencies. I'm really curious, and if you could share with us. I know, the Paradisos of the world, the Zinc Insurances of the world, the Crowley Insurances of the world. These guys are just crushing it at a high level.
Yeah.
What about the rest of us? Can any agency, in your opinion, become a high performance agency, and what does that look like?
So, can any agency become a high performance agency? I think it depends on your definition of success, right? Because one of the cool things about entrepreneurship is that you get to work towards your dream. And in the independent world, we have more options than, ever. So I think there's a little wiggle room there for what the agency owner wants out of the opportunity.
I'll tell you what, can I restructure the question real quick?
Sure.
Let's say your definition of high performance, let's say you operate at a good level, a very successful level. But you know what? You're coming into this year and saying, okay, I want to go 10, 15% higher in growth and revenue this year. Right. I want to get to that next level. What is that? Is that achievable? Or is it something you have to just have special things?
I think any agency can achieve that if they can crack the code to new business organic growth. High volume new business organic growth is the key. When you crack the code to how you can get those sales coming in the door, new clients, people who love your agency, trust your agency, and are going to be on the books for a long period of time, it really opens up options for the agency owner. So I think where we find agencies hitting a rut or just a plateau where they're like doing good, but they're like not sure how to move forward is because they have to break through the sales barrier of like, however much you're producing now, how do you get to that next level? So you may see agencies that are $9-10 million agencies with like great clients on the books, but they're only writing X amount of new business premium a month, right? So I think the key, sales is the key that unlocks those options. And once you have really just knocked it out of the park on the sales side, quality, business, sales, it really has a ripple effect and impacts the other areas in your agency. Because when you really understand the insurance sales conversation, it's going to change your marketing strategy. Because now you're going to have a different way of evaluating the effectiveness of that marketing campaign you just had or those internet leads that you just bought. Because once you've like really wrapped your arms around what it takes to bring on a great client, your target client into your agency, you're going to look at whether that was a good or bad internet lead in a different way. It's going to impact your recruiting strategy because you'll have a deeper understanding of what kind of person or personality or skill set you want to bring into the agency to be able to carry that forward. And it's going to impact your retention strategy. How much easier is a renewal premium increase call to a person if they understand the sales conversation and how to build value and build relationship and drive the conversation and create a buying experience for the client. So I think that sales is the key that unlocks everything. And it just really helps you to recharge, evolve your agency into that just version 2.0 of your agency, just getting to that next level. It can really break barriers and help you get there in 2021.
So, question, are people, if it comes down to the sales process, are a lot of agents or agencies doing it wrong? Like, what are you seeing in general as far as performance key factors when you talk about sales and the importance of sales? And it is, I mean, sales are what drives the revenue, but the process, you have to really look at the process on a granular level. What are folks doing wrong maybe in that sales process that you can acknowledge or identify? Because we all have very old models. A lot of us have old models or old patterns and habits we've been following for decades. Well, not decades for me, maybe like 12 years. But you know what I'm saying? I think you get the gist of what I'm saying.
You hit the nail on the head, Joe. Yeah, you have to have a sales process. So the thing that may surprise you is that however your agency sells right now, you already have a sales process. It may not be the one that you want, but you already have one. So how are you going to identify what it is and then put your finger on like where the misses are so that you can shape it and mold it and get everyone on the same page so that you have a uniform message and you're all charging in the same direction while keeping the focus on quality and the client relationship. So sales process is number one. And I have a podcast episode coming out next Monday on this topic. And I share the top 5 things that I learned about sales. So I'll give you guys a sneak peek because it's so relevant here. There's a couple of things you want to look for in your sales process, right? You're trying to like get down the cost of acquisition per client, right? You don't want it to be so super pricey every time you bring a client on board. So your team is going to need to know how to overcome objections to the quote. If you get someone on the phone and they say, oh, I have insurance, but my renewal isn't until March, are you going to be able to keep that conversation going, right? Because you have to have enough at-bats. And then the second piece of it is, then what does your conversation with the client look like? Are you quoting live or are you hanging up the phone so you can research it and call them back with a rate? Because that's when we fall into being just really transactional, and it's hard to break out of the price shopping conversation if you're going to do some fact finding, ask some questions, and then hang up the phone to work it out with your carriers in the system and figure it out and call them back with a price. Because when they pick up the phone, they're going to say, oh, hey, well, what was my price? Were you able to save me some money? And you may have missed some opportunities to have a real risk review to set yourself apart from the competition and set your client up for better success in protecting their family from life's risks by uncovering things that would have happened in an organic conversation with them and getting to know them over the phone. So quoting live is a really big part of our sales process in overcoming objections to the quote. So your lead to quote conversion ratio, keeping clients on the phone, quoting them live so you can actually strengthen that relationship and actually provide a better experience. And then the bundle quote, I see us missing in the insurance world all the time. Like, why can't we do a total risk review for home and auto and, whatever, maybe they also need motorcycle or landlord or umbrella, but just starting with the home and the auto, your team will tell you, oh, my client just wanted a quote on their home. That was their biggest priority right now. So how do we coach them to be able to manage that conversation and best help their client through that? Is it really in their client's best interest to have the insurance all over the place and just have to restart the process again in a couple weeks when we revisit the other line. And so I think strengthening their confidence when it comes to reviewing those things together and how they really relate together to really put the client in the best spot is something where we can really get hung up. And fixing that bundling ratio is one of the biggest first things you can do to really deliver a huge punch to your sales numbers. If you want to see a spike, if you can get that bundling ratio up, that's one of the first places to start.
You touched on a really great point, and that's something I could talk about this for a while, but you're talking about the fact of stopping that call, that part of the sales process where, and I'm just as guilty of this, to talk to a client, I take down the relevant information, I'll call you back with quotes. So all of a sudden that relationship building has become, like you said, very transactional. And man, I'm glad you brought that to my attention, because I would have never thought about that. I thought I'm doing them a service by letting them go because they have other things to get to, although they took time to make a call to me. So that's a great, fantastic point. I hope you do touch on that. Your podcast, The Age of Independence.
The Age of Independence. I'm a previous captive agent who transitioned into the independent world, and the Age of Independence podcast is all about just the opportunity that I see for agents, how much can be accomplished and in the digital age, and what it takes to compete and scale and grow in the modern marketplace without losing the heart and soul of your agency. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, the trusted advisor mentality will win. And so we have to figure out how we can scale and grow and have thriving businesses without losing sight of the client's best interest and what really makes sense for them.
We have to validate our trusting part of it too, right? Thank you, Katlyn. I can't thank you enough for being here. It's so great to finally chat with you and get to meet you, at least on screen. Check out her podcast. It is, I think, available on all the major podcast avenues. And thanks so much for being here. Have a great weekend. Appreciate you.
So fun talking to you guys. Have a good one. Happy Friday.
So much.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Katlyn Eggar puts the egg in the insurance scramble. Great to have her finally on the show. And I think there's a lot to talk about and digest here, right?
There is a ton to talk about and digest. She had so many great points about the way, I complained about Nick taking away my excuses. And now Katlyn is telling me that I actually have to pay attention to my processes. I mean, it is all of these things that I don't want to do.
Blowing it off, Alex.
They're just telling me you got to get these things done. But it was interesting. It's because I didn't know if I quite heard her say it, but there definitely had to be a huge component in their process with data, because they're talking about understanding where the CSRs or where the customer service reps are having these conversations. Where are they losing the conversation? Where are they getting the conversation? How do they move that conversation to the next step? How are they tracking that information? Where are they getting the good, the bad, and the ugly? And that's where some of the conversations we've been having throughout the show. It has been about, making sure that we're looking at the data, but it's not just us looking at data. It has to be someone who knows how to actually read the data and give us insight. Because a lot of times when we try to do things, as an agency owner who wears a lot of hats, spins a lot of plates, I can tell you, make more mistakes than I have wins. So,
in the spirit of moving the show forward, because we are per our standard these days going overtime, and I don't want to hold up anybody's schedule, and because the reality is we get some really quality individuals on this show, so the last thing I want to do is push their day back too much. But our last guest here today, and I'm super excited to have him back on. If I had to name one agent or one business owner that I think has had the most growth and movement in the independent insurance environment in the last 12 to 16 months, I would say hands down Bradley Flowers. Bradley Flowers not only opened his second agency location recently, I feel like it's been within the last year and a half, he's opened both locations. He's also making a great habit of bringing in fresh commentary, riding on the coattails of what's trending in the insurance industry. You also will know him and recognize him from the Insurance Guys podcast. Bradley, welcome back. Good to see you, buddy.
They may not recognize my face, but they might recognize my voice.
Oh, sultry. I love that tone in your voice. What kind of microphone you use there?
This is a Shure SM7B, and it is connected to a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 that then goes into my computer and turns it into a USB mic. So
Jesus,
if anybody
dude,
wants,
like
that's literally
boy, that's
literally that, and headphones is all you need.
Joe, no microphone that we buy is going to make a sound like that. That's just not going to happen.
No, that's the sound of hard work right there. Bradley, we changed platforms since you've been here last. What do you think of our new digs?
I love it, man. I love it. I might, I was thinking, have I done the insurance scramble the most?
You are, I think this, if I want to say this is your 4th appearance. So you're definitely on the leaderboard. You may be top dog.
I think I did 3 by myself. I did 1 with Landon, and I think this is 5.
You're right. I forgot the Landon episode. You're right.
I'm pretty sure.
You're going to get a robe that has a 5 on it now.
I'm an OG. I'm an OG insurance scrambler.
You are.
I'm kind of like the poached eggs of the insurance scrambler.
You're like the
high end. No.
You're the really dry eggs with no butter on the toast.
To talk about the Benedict. What's wrong with the eggs Benedict? I mean,
that's poached eggs, buddy. That's poached eggs.
It's
all about the hollandaise, though.
It's always humbling to come on, man. It's one of my favorite things to do. I really look forward to it every single time.
You're one of my favorite people, obviously. So ditto back to you, buddy. I tell you what, mergers and acquisitions are definitely trending right out of the gate in 2021. Applied seems to be just continuing to gobble up, where InLinks is getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion,
Death Star.
Yeah. So
I mean that as a compliment.
No, absolutely. But in your opinion, and I stress the word opinion. This is just opinions. Is this good for indie agents? What's happening right now?
It's a tough question. So
we can come back to it if you just want to give commentary.
What's funny is like I've been having this idea of when the Morning Brew thing happened. I don't know if you guys keep up with Morning Brew, but they had a pretty big acquisition 3 months ago, I think. And what Morning Brew was just like a bunch of curated content that came from all over the place, and they would send it out on an email list. Basically, I was like, we could do something like that in insurance, and sort of like here's what's happening from my angle and things like that, because I'm heavily involved in like knowing what's going on in the industry and things like that because of some of the circles I run in. But I talk to like average Joe agent, and they don't, not only do they not keep up with that, they might not even know, and not that they care, but I was like, it'd be good if we could like take some new and noteworthy things and like give our 2 cents on it and things like that and put it out there. And I've had this in my head for a while, and it's been ramping up and that sort of thing. And then the other day, Applied bought EasyLinks, and then American Family bought Bull Penguin within like 3 minutes of each other. And I was like, well, there's never a better time than right now. So me and Grant plopped down right here and shot a video. And like I said in the video, I'm just a guy. Like I don't want somebody to watch and be like, well, who the heck does he think he is? I don't think I'm anybody. I'm just a dude that is an operator in an insurance agency that cares about the direction the industry is growing. So to answer your question,
perfect candidate right there. The fact that you so organically migrated to that, like it seems so natural for you just to pick up and put out some content, because you do this a lot. You put out content on what you're feeling, and you can call yourself a normal guy, but you're a guy that actually is really paying attention to what's going on in this industry. And that's part of the reason I think you're so valuable in what you have to say.
And Sydney Rowe put out a great video too. And like in her video, she said something I wish I would have said in mine, which was, I'm not in any boardrooms at Applied. And I certainly think a lot of Applied from a business standpoint, the way they run their business and things like that. And they certainly have, deep pockets and things like that to do stuff with. So to answer your question, I think that the acquisition is phenomenal for people that are already on Applied, because it's strictly, in my opinion, a rater move. Okay. Secondly is a management system. I've been on Applied's rater. In theory, it's a great product. There's very, very, very formerly SimCat rater. There's very, 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 very nice people there. But it just wasn't really up to par with what independent agents needed. I've said often that double entry is the death of the independent agent, the eventual death. And, anything that Applied can do for their users to take that one step closer to eliminating that, I think is phenomenal. I think for EasyLinks users, I think it's up in the air. depends on if they want to be a part of that or not. You know, I know several EasyLinks users I've talked to without calling and asking anybody, just in general conversation, like, yeah, I'm leaving before this is official. And then I think there's some that are looking forward to the upgrade. You know, I think too, if you're an EasyLinks user, I think you need to be ready for Applied to try to upsell you on Epic and things like that to move over. So I think whether or not it's good for the industry, I don't know. I mean, certainly one big conglomerate having control of everything isn't necessarily a good thing, but I'm not saying it is or not. So I think it's remained to be seen.
Yeah, and that's
and here's the other thing too. Here, I would like to say this too. This is one thing. The only person that rebutted my video I did, if you wanted, it's on my LinkedIn. The only person that rebutted my video I did slightly was a good buddy of mine who made the point, because in my video I said, you know, I think best case scenario, you're looking at a Vertafore QQ situation where they bought QQ. QQ is still a great platform, but they didn't necessarily continue to innovate. And I said that, and then they came. The person that rebutted me is a good friend of mine. Messaged me, was like, "Well, EasyLinks is not QQ, and EasyLink is not Tech Canary. EasyLink is a massive company, so that might change that a little bit." So it remains to be seen.
Interesting. Yeah, it'll
be interesting for sure.
And I think it could be good for some and not so good for others. Yeah. Like you said, I think, you know, as an Applied customer, you know, we use Applied in our agency. I'm excited to see what EasyLinks might bring to the table. I'm excited to get a better rater opportunity. If I was just an EasyLinks client, I would be maybe a little concerned that, they might we might not get the upgrades or a better version, because now Applied's kind of taking it over. And are they going to actually utilize it and grow it? Or are they just going to kind of shove it under the bed? You know?
Yeah, and it's in my opinion, I think too, the bigger thing, and I mentioned this in the video as well, is it's going to create a bubble for some of these other smaller management systems, like the ones I'm on, or the one I'm on, to step up. It's going to create sort of an environment where, you know, right now there's really not, you know, considering the fact that now EasyLinks is a part of Applied, there's really not a mid to small agency management system leader. You know, I think there's a huge opportunity for Hawksoft, who I know is making innovations in their cloud-based platform and is a great platform of itself that will always be privately owned. I think there's an opportunity for our friends over at Neon. I think there's an opportunity for Now Certs. I think there's an even bigger opportunity for some of these CRMs that are out there, the agency Zooms and Better Agencies and Agency Elephants and folks like that of the world, to maybe step up and sort of lean towards a management system a little bit and really pick up a lot of market share, because I've talked to some of the people at some of these companies, more the management system companies, and they're doing a lot of demos. So I think there's an opportunity for another player to really either, you know, create themselves or step up, and it will be super interesting to see that.
Well, change always creates opportunity. Right. So, you know, we're going to see now that, you know, that folks who want the smaller are going to just, you know, drop EasyLinks, go to a different direction. And we're going to see the folks who've always wanted the bigger but couldn't quite get there try to take advantage of the connection. Mm-hmm. The question really ends up being overall is, you know, going forward, can these other companies, the ones who are currently have the best opportunity to grow, can they grow to fill the void that now exists? Because that's what would be healthy for the independent agency system, right? Because if we have two huge players out there who have literally trying to buy up half the market,
more than half,
right? Well, I mean, there's a lot of money in there, and they're not the only ones looking. The Alphabet investment in Applied can't be ignored. You have other folks looking at our industry in a way that we haven't hadn't had an opportunity to. So the question is going to be, can these smaller management systems really start to pick up? And we need them to slightly, so that we can make sure we're also have a place to leverage against some of these larger organizations. Because again, this average independent agency out there is what, 7 employees?
7, yep.
Right. So, if you're 150, if you're thousands, Marsh or
You're gonna get me fired up talking about seven employees. I'm not even going there.
You know what, Bradley, we just love your new hobby of riding on the coattails of trending news. So we're gonna have to get you back on here because these are the questions. These are going to continue to be the questions we're going to be trying to answer, and more so just bringing clarity to. We have to sift through a lot of crap, but there's going to be some nuggets in there that are really going to, I think, help us get to where we want to be, and it's going to be tangible growth because they're the right things. They're the right tools for what we need.
Well, and you have to, less tech is better than more tech, and what I mean by that is less. What I mean by less tech is not less functionality. I mean less programs, more functionality.
Mm-hmm.
And if a program doesn't have the functionality that you want, you either need to talk to them about adding that functionality. I spent 45 minutes on the phone 2 days ago with a CRM company that we use, or you need to talk to them about finding some sort of integration. And people throw around the word. I was talking about this to somebody last week. I can't remember who. People throw around the word integration. It's like Bill Engvall, the comedian, used to have a skit where his wife went into labor and the only word he knew was epidural. So he was running in the hospital going, epidural. And I feel like a lot of agents do that with integration, like integration. Like you need to clarify what you want. Like an integration can be when I add a prospect here, it goes here, or it can be when something happens in this system, it's completely reflected in this system over here, and the two are essentially one. And you need to have those conversations with your vendors, not only like that you want it to do that, but more specifically what you want it to do. And from a functionality standpoint, I think that's kind of the biggest downside to being on Applied is if Applied doesn't have that feature, you're not going to be able to do it. Now, chances are, if you hold out, eventually they'll just buy whatever you want it to do, and you'll be fine. But I think that's another thing to think about. Don't add more tools, don't add more work for your team. And certainly, we've all been guilty for that. Even me. Don't add more work for your team by adding tools. When you add a tool, it should take away work, not add work.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. I'm out. Microphone drop.
Yeah.
Bradley, what are you working
I'm
on?
not dropping the microphone. I'm so sorry.
Don't drop it. Don't drop that Focusrite C725X, whatever it is that's connected to your microphone.
Jet engines.
Always a pleasure, my friend. What are you working
Likewise.
on right now? What should we be paying attention to besides the Insurance Guys podcast?
Got a couple side project. Got one big announcement coming.
You don't say.
Yeah. One big announcement that only a few people know. Little partnership on it, and something that Grant and I are doing that I think is gonna make some waves. Agency wise, we are currently hiring for our Birmingham, Alabama office. We did announce a location in Birmingham, and then shortly thereafter, the person ended up not being a good fit, so we had to kind of start back over to square one. So if you're in the Birmingham, Alabama area and are looking to partner with Portal, hit me up. But just trying to grow the agency, man. We're spending a lot of time on structure and process right now. That way we can really scale up. We just moved locations. We've got 1,000 more square feet here, and this location's right for recruiting. People are going to want to work here. But we are firming up our processes, like literally processes, to that way when we scale up, we don't have to rip a Band-Aid off.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations. It's fun and exciting to watch you grow each and every month. And always look forward to chatting with you and just seeing what you're up to. Thanks for being there, buddy.
Absolutely. You guys have a good one.
You too, man.
Thank you, man.
Man, what an all-star lineup. It's hard to cut folks short. The format of what we're trying to do is make it more punchy, make it less drawn out conversation so that you really get the value kind of concentrated throughout the show. But when you get people that just have so much great things to say, it's hard to keep them short, but we'll try to find that beautiful balance.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was, what's amazing about it is it's just that they all had such different points of view, which is why it's so hard to slow them down or maybe move on to the next topic, because their perspectives all came from so many different places in the industry, and specifically Bradley's. A person, such an authentic agent who's really just trying to do good for his community and for the agency, industry at large. It's amazing to hear from him and everything that, his thought process of what's going on and what we should be doing coming. But brother,
double entry is the death of the independent agent. I love that quote. Double entry is the death of the independent agent.
Well, double entry is wrong. It's multiple entry. You could be 7 different entries to get one homeowner's quote.
True. Double if you're lucky.
Double if you're lucky, I think is a good one.
Well, it's been a blast. Right now we're on a every 2 week schedule, so we will be back live Friday, February 4th.
5th. Friday, February 5th at 4 p.m.
Eastern, 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central. Thanks everybody that chimed in and viewed us and watched today. It's our pleasure to have you here. This is about us learning and growing. And I think we're going to continue to do that slowly but surely. Mr. Awesome, thanks for being here, buddy.
Always a pleasure, brother, but we can't leave without putting this on for Ed.
Just when you think this show is terrible, something wonderful happens. What? It ends.
Have a great one, everybody.
Good night, Ed.